The biggest investment mistakes rarely happen because we lack information. They happen because emotions quietly replace mathematics. Walk into almost any property discussion in Singapore, and eventually one question appears. Is it within 1 kilometre of a good primary school? For many buyers, that single question can outweigh almost everything else. Layout? Secondary. Future infrastructure? Maybe. Rental demand? Less important. Master plan? Hardly discussed. Instead, an invisible circle drawn on a map suddenly becomes worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The irony? Nothing about the apartment has changed. The walls remain the same, the floor plan is identical, the facilities haven't improved. Only its position relative to a school has changed. Yet buyers willingly pay substantial premiums for that invisible boundary. The question is, should they? Or has Singapore's property market created another powerful optical illusion, one where buyers mistake emotional comfort for investment quality? Let's examine the numbers. The golden circle. Imagine sitting across a negotiation table. The seller slides a set of keys towards you. It's a standard 3-bedroom condominium. Nothing particularly luxurious. Nothing architecturally iconic. Nothing award-winning. But there's one magical characteristic. The project sits 900 meters from one of Singapore's most prestigious primary schools. Immediately, the asking price jumps. Not because construction costs were higher, not because rental demand is stronger, not because future infrastructure is superior, but because anxious parents desperately want that address. This is what I call the emotional premium. It isn't created by concrete. It isn't created by steel. It is created by psychology. Why parents are willing to pay. Let's be clear. This podcast is not questioning the importance of education. Every parent naturally wants the best opportunities for their children. That is understandable. This podcast asks an entirely different question. Does buying near a prestigious school automatically make a better property investment? Those are two completely different conversations. One concerns family decisions. The other concerns financial returns. Unfortunately, many buyers unknowingly combine them into one. The difference between utility and investment. Buying near a top school provides tremendous personal utility. It may increase your child's admission chances. It reduces traveling time. It offers peace of mind. Those benefits are real. But personal utility does not necessarily create superior investment performance. That distinction is where many buyers get into trouble. How property prices are actually built. Every condominium has an underlying fundamental value. That value comes from measurable factors such as layout efficiency, land scarcity, future MRT connectivity, commercial developments, employment hubs, supply pipeline, historical transaction volumes, rental demand, URA, master plan. These are objective fundamentals. Then something else gets added, the emotional premium. This premium exists because buyers believe certain characteristics deserve additional pricing, regardless of financial fundamentals. One of the largest emotional premiums in Singapore happens to be school proximity. The luxury brand analogy. Imagine purchasing shares of a company. Instead of reading financial statements, analyzing cash flow, understanding future earnings, you simply buy because the company has a famous logo. The brand feels prestigious. Everyone recognizes it. It feels safe. But you've ignored the actual business. Many property buyers do exactly the same thing. The prestigious school becomes the famous logo. The property's financial fundamentals become the forgotten balance sheet. Developers understand human psychology. Developers know this better than anyone. Suppose they successfully acquire a government land sales site beside a prestigious school. Do they generously pass that advantage to buyers? Of course not. They immediately build the premium into launch prices. Perhaps neighboring projects trade around $2,000 per square foot. The new launch beside the famous school suddenly enters at $2,350 per square foot. Nothing inside the apartment justifies the difference. The premium exists because demand is emotional. Parents are willing to pay. Developers know it. The market accepts it. The real problem isn't demand. Many people immediately respond, but demand will always exist. True, parents will always value education. However, investment performance isn't determined by demand alone. It is determined by entry price. That changes everything. Your entry price determines your future profit. Suppose two buyers purchase almost identical condominiums. Buyer A pays $2,000 per square foot. Buyer B pays $2,350 per square foot. Both properties appreciate by 20%. Buyer A creates significantly larger returns because they entered at a lower valuation. Buyer B spent years merely recovering the emotional premium they paid up front. The investment wasn't poor, the entry price was. The affordability ceiling nobody talks about. Here's where mathematics defeats emotion. Many buyers assume the next generation of parents will simply pay even higher prices. But markets don't operate on emotions alone. Banks have limits. Mortgage approvals have limits. TDSR has limits. Interest rates matter. Income growth matters. Affordability creates a ceiling. Eventually, buyers may want the property, but cannot finance it. Demand still exists. Liquidity disappears. This is where many highly priced school zone properties begin underperforming expectations. The greater fool theory. There's an uncomfortable investment concept called the greater fool theory. It assumes you can overpay today because someone else will overpay even more tomorrow. Sometimes it works, until it doesn't. Buying solely because you expect another anxious parent to eventually rescue your exit price isn't investing, it's speculation. Investment versus insurance. Many families unknowingly purchase school zone properties as emotional insurance. If I buy here, my child's future feels safer. Again, nothing wrong with that. But understand what you're purchasing. You're purchasing certainty, not necessarily superior returns. The mistake happens when buyers expect emotional insurance to generate exceptional investment performance. Data always beats emotion. Professional investors rarely begin with schools. They begin with numbers. Questions include: how many recent transactions occurred? What is the rental demand? What future infrastructure is coming? How much new supply is entering? What's the launch to resale pricing gap? What's the replacement cost? How liquid is the district? These questions determine investment quality. School proximity comes later, not first. The three numbers every buyer should check. Before looking at any school map, examine three critical metrics. 1. Transaction liquidity. Healthy markets transact regularly. If buyers and sellers are consistently active, price discovery remains efficient. Liquidity protects future exit strategies. 2. Price gap. Compare nearby resale projects against new launches. If developers command extremely large premiums simply because of school proximity, your future upside may already be priced in. 3. Future growth drivers. Schools don't build future wealth. Infrastructure often does. Ask yourself, is a new MRT station coming? Are commercial hubs expanding? Is employment increasing nearby? Is the district undergoing transformation? These factors create sustainable appreciation. What experienced investors often miss? Ironically, the people most vulnerable today are often experienced investors. Why? Because strategies that worked 15 years ago no longer produce identical results. Back then, land prices were lower, interest rates differed, supply was tighter, school premiums were relatively modest. General market appreciation easily absorbed those premiums. Today's environment is different. Developers launch at record prices. School premiums have expanded significantly. Affordability constraints are tighter. Repeating yesterday's strategy under today's conditions may produce disappointing returns. Past success doesn't guarantee future performance. The hidden opportunity. Whenever the majority crowds into one location, opportunity usually appears somewhere else. Instead of competing with hundreds of emotional buyers inside the 1 kilometer radius, look slightly beyond it. Imagine a project located 1.2 kilometers away. It doesn't qualify for priority admission. Many emotional buyers ignore it immediately. As a result, lower entry prices, better layouts, higher rental yields, stronger affordability, better long-term ROI. Sometimes the best investment isn't inside the golden circle, it's just outside it. Herd behavior creates pricing inefficiencies. Every investment bubble begins with a story. Technology, cryptocurrency, luxury brands, artificial intelligence. Property behaves exactly the same way. Today, the narrative might be elite schools. Tomorrow, it could become green districts, wellness communities, carbon-neutral developments, or smart cities. The narrative changes, human psychology doesn't. Successful investors recognize emotional premiums before everyone else. Great investors avoid paying them. Separate family decisions from investment decisions. Buying near a prestigious school may be absolutely the right family decision. But ask yourself honestly, are you solving an educational objective or making an investment? Those are not identical. Confusing the two often becomes extremely expensive. The bigger question. When most buyers view property, they ask, which project should I buy? Professional investors ask something different. What role should this property play within my wealth strategy? One question focuses on products, the other focuses on outcomes. That difference changes everything. Final thoughts. The greatest financial mistakes rarely begin with poor properties. They begin with paying too much for good properties. A prestigious address, a famous school, a recognized district. These characteristics certainly have value, but every premium has a limit. The market eventually returns to mathematics. The best investors never ignore emotions. They simply refuse to let emotions determine price. Because at the end of every property cycle, wealth isn't created by buying what everyone wants. It's created by buying the right asset, at the right price, for the right reason. Once you understand that distinction, you'll never evaluate property the same way again. Your move. Before committing to your next property purchase, ask yourself 4 simple questions. Am I paying for strong fundamentals or an emotional premium? Does my entry price leave room for future appreciation? Am I buying based on data or popular opinion? Is this property helping me achieve my long-term wealth strategy? Sometimes the most profitable opportunities aren't found where everyone is looking. They're found where very few people are willing to look. If you're considering your next move, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, investing, or restructuring your portfolio, I'd be happy to have a conversation. WhatsApp me directly, +6581 810 258, or comment school below, and I'll share a simple framework to evaluate whether you're paying for fundamentals or emotion. Sometimes, one shift in perspective is all it takes to change the trajectory of your financial future. This is M. Strategy over emotion.